Welcome to this week's SV Lynx video. Last week, we did fairing and sanding and more fairing and sanding. But we also prepped for the carbon fiber chain plates.
Yeah, we wanted to get those ready. And this week, we're hopefully going to tackle those. So let's get right to it and show you what we're accomplishing on SV Lynx this week. So Brian's over here working on the chain plate holders, just cleaning up the rough spots on the thickened epoxy. Here we've moved on. We've got the chain plate holders all cleaned up in the top deck part. This is the slot where the carbon fiber is going to come down onto this bulkhead here. So we've got to sand this all up, make sure that it's a nice rough flat surface to bond all those carbon fiber strips. There are going to be 40 of them total between these two. So we're going to work on that, and we're going to try and get these carbon fiber strips, build the chain plates today. So a lot of sanding to go, but I already did the starboard side, so I'm going to work on the port side now. Okay, well, that's a start. Not finished. Got to get the compressor a chance to rest for a bit, and then I'll hit it again, and then I'll move on to the other side. Do it. Well, after finishing up the sanding for the chain plates on the bulkhead, we moved back up into the Salon and Cockpit to get some more sanding done up here in preparation for our 200th episode party. Well, it turns out it's going to be too warm this afternoon to do the chain plates, and even hotter the next 2 days. It's going to get up to around 90 degrees Fahrenheit or that Celsius. So we decided to wait till Saturday, where it's going to get back down in temperature down to like 74 degrees Fahrenheit, that Celsius. And so it doesn't really matter because we have so much other things to do that we got plenty of work to do. So as you can see already, Brian's standing inside the salon. I'm going to start out here in the cockpit. And we got our drywall sander out, and that and the orbital, we're moving along pretty quickly here. Some of the little corner spots we have to get in there with a needle sander or such, but we've gotten most of the highs knocked down on the seat area and on the other side of the bulkhead in the exterior seat area. We've already got the table and the nav system, so other than a little bit of corner stuff with the needle sander, we're getting close to coat number 2 out here in the salon. Of course, we still haven't done coat number 1 in the galley because there's some work I got to do here first, but we're going to fair this whole galley pretty soon. That's the last major area that we have left to fair. There's little spots along the edging of the windows and such, but as far as big areas, we've got this one left to do. And then we'll go second coat on all of these and sand them again. And it's afternoon, and although it is getting warm, it's not so warm that we can't do a little bit of epoxy work. So that sounds like a good time to put a cove and a tab on our galley arm here. So that's what we're going to do. Had a little bonus job here that we're doing. This is the angled pieces that go down in the starboard side shower and head toe kick spot. Another job done. This is all tabbed on the bottom now, so it will never move again. Probably would never have moved with just all that glue we put down, but now with the tabs, I guarantee it's never going to move. And then these will be ready to put in to our sink area covers down below. These still have to be cut to special angles, but we just oversize them and then we'll go cut them to reality down there. But that's not today because we've got to set up. Tomorrow maybe we'll get these glued in down there.
With that done, it was back to sanding, starting with the lounging area here in the cockpit and then up onto the cockpit ceiling and some of the bulkhead number 6 up by the helm.
Well, we haven't put you through it, but we've been, Brian and I both have been sanding for the last 3 hours since we arrived. A lot of sanding on this cockpit ceiling, trying to get it ready for paint. It's getting pretty close. There are a few spots where I'm going to have to touch up, particularly for some reason down in this area back here, but most of the rest of this is pretty good. And then Brian's been inside sanding in the back table back there and then moving on over here to some of the areas in the main table. So it's just been a lot of sanding, and we showed you sanding yesterday, so I didn't film any of that. But we're not done. There's still a lot more sanding to go on this. Fortunately, we're moving along pretty well as far as, in general, getting the cockpit and galley and salon areas faired and sanded. So it's coming along. We've got 3 to 4 more weeks before the party. I see no reason why we're not going to make it, but still a lot of work ahead of us. Now that our galley arm is tabbed in here forever, this is the removable piece that we have so that we can get to the freezer refrigerators if we need to take them out for servicing or repair or replacement. And this piece, which holds the television set here, is going to be bolted onto this one. 3 down there and 3 bolts over here. Now we already cored that end. It's ready to work, but this one we never cored, so I'm going to drill these out and fill these with thickened epoxy. Then we'll glue in our blocks with some stainless steel T-nuts on them. Once those are in, we can drill through the thickened epoxy to get that bolt in there. And then we'll put some pads and such here so this doesn't rattle or squeak, since this is not glued on in there. But for right now, I just need to core these. Brian's already mixing up some thickened epoxy for me. But we're also going to do some other work at the same time. So he's mixing up a bigger batch than I need. All right, that one's ready to go.
All right, all 3 holes filled.
These are 2 supports for the lid on the galley arm that now that the galley arm's in there, these get glued to the wall to support it. But they have to be cored on both top and bottom. Bottom because it's exposed, and top because we need something for that hard top to land on, and I want to land it on foam. So we cored both sides out, and we'll fill them up, sand them up, and glue them onto the wall. I got it.
We moved on from the galley and moved up to the bow, and we're going to do a job that we've already done on the other side of the boat.
Corner. Almost like some practice. Okay. Excellent. So all set. It's all glued in here now. The bead all the way around the edge. So we can let that set up. The other side on the port side is already done. This is the starboard. So we'll be ready to start putting in our Bobstay carbon fiber support pin area. This morning we're getting ready to fix the countertop that lifts here over the freezer refrigerators. And we need some supports along here to have it land on. And so we're going to glue these on like this. And they have been cored and filled on both edges. So there's a nice hard surface and no exposed foam. And then over here, we've got some little wood blocks that we sealed and resin sealed. And these are going to get glued on right here. And 3 more of them over there. But Brian's mixing up some epoxy right now. He only needs a little bit. So he's doing a minimum batch right now, and then we'll get this all clamped and held on to set up. Okay, let's start with the bottom. Bottom. All right, we're done. This one was hard to clamp because there's a curved end here, so we just put a board here to hold it in place with a little weight on it. The bottom one is okay with that clamp. This one's there, and those 3 are easy. They just clamp to the wall. Same thing over here. We just braced it with a brick and a piece there, just enough to hold it while it sets up. As long as we don't bang it, we're good. This morning we're having a bit of a division of labor, or trading off, if you will. It's Friday, and it's time to get more sanding done up in the salon, the cockpit, so we can get towards paint. And only one of us can really sand up there right now because we're doing finishing sanding. And so we're kind of done with the big drywall sander because what we have to do now is just fine sanding, and that'll take our orbital. So instead what we're going to do is Brian's going to work on creating these. We're doing is we're making some new curved pieces for the corners of the cabinets in the in the heads on the port side. And so they're a little different than the ones on the starboard side. They have an L-shaped counter, so near the door, so we need a curved section on that. We'll show you more on that later. So he's going to work on that. He's got some pieces to glue in on the side, supports for the by the dagger board for the side of the boat. So he's going to take care of those things while I go up and sand. Okay, it's time for us to glue in the countertop. It goes into these port heads. We're going to do both of them. Okay, 1. Okay. Had some leftover epoxy from when Brian was working on the other port side cupboard area. So we have this shelf ready to go. So we're using the extra epoxy right now to put this shelf in. Now the shelf has to go in before we can put this side on. Otherwise we can't fit the shelf in. This afternoon, we're working on putting another shelf in. And again, we have to insert this in here before we put the side on, or we can't get the shelf in. But as long as we're doing it now, that shelf goes in right there. So that looks like that's ready to go. Oh, Brian's out mixing epoxy for that. Now, while we're waiting, let me show you what we did already. We just glued this piece in that goes right here. And this is to give the hull support, since we got rid of the wall that was here for the shower. So that's just the support for that. We glued that in, and we did one on the other side here as well. And then we got the shelf I'm just showing you on the other side in here. That one's already glued in. So next thing up will be to put this piece in and start sealing this up. That's the actual door that opens up to get into the cupboard right there, which is this piece over here. So just about ready to go on that. But before we do that, guess what? More sanding. There's this wall on the Salon side of bulkhead number 6 here, which I haven't sanded yet, so now's the time. Okay, this wall was pretty bad. I didn't do a very good job of fairing it smooth, so I had to sand for quite some time. So about an hour to sand on that one, but it's pretty smooth now. Probably be fine now for a coat of super build and then another sanding on top of that. That's Big Crew Saturday, and we got Jeff here, and we need him because we're going to do a minimum of 80 layers of carbon fiber to do the starboard chain plates. And if we're still going strong, we're going to do another 80 layers and do the port side. We've prepped both sides so they're ready to go. And the way it's going to work is Brian's going to wet out all of the layers over here, and then he'll take them up above, drop them down through the slots, and Jeff and I will be on either side of bulkhead number 6, and we're going to start separating out the strips and fanning them out to get as much surface area as we can on there. And I'll work on one side and he'll work on the other. We'll put a strip down, roll it out, get all the bubbles out, separate the next strip, and onward. While we're doing that, Brian will be back up here again, mixing the next 20 layers together, dropping it down to us, and we'll just continue. Then we'll move on to that will be the cap shroud. Then we'll move on to the intermediates. Now, the cap shrouds start out at 4 meters or 3 yards, but the intermediates are 2 meters or 2 yards. So we'll start out with the 2 long ones, and then we'll move to the shorter ones. Then we'll go back to long ones on the port side and short ones if we get to that. We have no idea how long it's going to take us or any of that stuff because there's so many layers and such that we're going to find out and see how far we can get. We'd like to get all the way. 160 layers.
Well, in the end, it didn't go as well as I'd hoped. It took us 2.5 hours to put on 40 layers, and that's only 1/4 of what we need to do to finish all 4 of these chain plates. So we only got 1 chain plate done. So it looks like we've got some cool weather on Monday and Tuesday, and what I'm planning on doing is doing the 2 short ones on Monday and the other long one like we just did on the port side on Tuesday. So that's just how long it's going to take. And the problem is that you'll notice I had to put down this blue tarp. That's because the sun came out and was blazing down onto our work. Brian covered the top portion from above, but we couldn't keep going because it was getting hot enough, the material, with just these 20 layers and actually 40 layers at the very top on top of each other. So that was getting kind of warm, and direct sunlight on there would have cooked. So we just called it a day and did other things in the afternoon, and we'll knock off these other 3 chain plates over Monday and Tuesday. We'll show you a lot more of that when we do it. We were kind of figuring it out this time, so we didn't get a chance to show you the top portion being done and any of that. So we'll get to more of it Monday and Tuesday as we shoot the next video.
So as you saw, this week we got started on the carbon fiber chain plates, doing one of the larger ones this Saturday. And we found out what a lengthy process that is. So we were only able to do 1 with those 40 layers this week, and we're going to tackle the other 3 next week.
Yeah, we're going to divide those up so that the 2 shorter ones we'll do on Monday, and the other really long one, like we did Saturday, we'll do on Tuesday. But yeah, 40 layers took a while, and then it just got too warm after that. That's the main reason we couldn't continue. Because with that many layers, the epoxy starts heating up anyway, and so we can't have a very warm temperature when we do that. But the one we did came out very nicely, and so we know what we're doing now, so Monday and Tuesday shouldn't be a big deal. We also had a camera go down, so it's the footage we had wasn't spectacular for doing that carbon fiber chain plate. The good news is we have 3 more to show you, and so we'll get a little more video of that in next week's video. But we'd like to answer a few questions that have come up in our comments on our videos, and so Marianne's going to read some of them, and I'm going to answer a lot of them, and she's going to answer a few, and off we go.
Okay, first one is, this person thinks they missed why the engine mount is off and needs extending. Was it construction variations on the boat or the OEM not building it correctly?
Okay, so let me start out with this was not Combi's fault at all. What happened was very early on when we ordered this, we didn't know which transmission we were getting on the Nanny diesel, and they built it for a transmission, only to find out later that I got a different transmission than what they planned for, and some of the Nanny transmissions are slightly different in depth. So the one I got was a little longer, therefore the bracket was a little short. So what we've tried to do is we tried to save some money by cutting the arms and extending them, and then re-welding the whole structure and being able to use the brackets that they sent. However, in recent days, just recently, I talked to Combi about it, and they were not big on me doing that. They said, instead, we would rather make you an entirely new bracket for the mounts that's for the correct transmission and fixes any other small issues that we had with how it mounts and such. So the kindness of their heart, Combi is rebuilding that entire motor mount and going to ship it to us. So thank you, Combi. We appreciate how you stand by your products. It's great.
Okay, our next comment is, this person is saying, did I miss the video where you announced you're going to race your yacht? Seems like you are weakly concerned about weight. I get that weight is important, but...
Okay. First of all, anytime 2 boats are going the same direction, it's a race. But no, we're not planning on actually racing this boat. there are a lot of reasons why you want to keep a catamaran light. And just think of it this way: as we're making our very first crossing from Puerto Vallarta to the Marquesas Islands, that's around 30-day voyage for a typical production cat. But a more performance-oriented catamaran like this, we could do it in around 20 days. Well, that's 10 days less exposed to weather, out on the ocean. And we can carry less provisions because we don't have as long a voyage, so that gets it even a little lighter. It's just safer to spend less time exposed out on the water. And so having a light catamaran allows us to have that. Now, I want to say something about our design for this catamaran to do with weight. We didn't plan to make this the lightest catamaran out there. We wanted a mid-range weight cat, and there's a reason for this. There's a comfort reason. So the faster you go, the faster you get there, and that certainly adds to your comfort. But on a super light catamaran, every time the wind changes, even slightly, a slight little gust of wind, anything, it accelerates. And then as soon as that gust's over, it decelerates. So you constantly have this acceleration, deceleration. And that's uncomfortable. And it's uncomfortable for a very long time.
For me.
for the Admiral. So we don't want a super light catamaran. On the other hand, we don't want a super heavy catamaran because then we take forever and then we're exposed to all that weather and time. So we want the sweet spot. We're the Goldilocks boat. And what we want is a catamaran that has enough weight that it isn't going to surge too much with slight gusts, and light enough that we can sail at good speed. So if you're wondering what good speed is, on a super light performance cat, you could probably sail at wind speed. And on a typical production cat, you're going to go about half of wind speed. And this boat will do about 2/3 of wind speed, right in between. That's that sweet spot we were looking for on there. And so anyway, while we're building the boat, we sometimes over-engineer certain parts of the boat. And the reason we do this is because those are areas that we need this boat to be super strong, like say the chain plates. We just did those chain plates and they required 16 layers of carbon fiber, so we put 20. That's just one example. We've over-engineered several spots on this boat because we just want those critical areas to be strong. And because of that, that's adding a little bit of weight. But if we're careful in other areas to keep the weight down, we can hopefully balance that back out and stick within what the design parameters for weight on this boat, which this boat is a dry weight is around 25,000 pounds. So that's what we're shooting for. And as we construct, we try to save weight where we can, and we add a little weight when we over-engineer. So we'll find out how close we hit to the actual designed weight of this boat when we lift it to take it to the water, because the crane will have a gauge on there that's going to weigh the boat as we lift it. So we'll find out. Now, it doesn't really matter what it comes out. It'll be what it is, because it's not like we're going to rebuild the boat. But I'll just be curious to how close we came. But we are shooting for that mid-range boat.
Our next question is, what material are you using for the build, and why didn't you go with aluminum instead?
Okay, speaking of weight, if we went with aluminum, we could drop the weight of this boat. For example, a Mumby 48 is an aluminum boat, and it weighs around 16,000 pounds, which you can see we're 25,000. That's significantly less weight, and that has advantages for them. They're going to be able to put up a lot less sail. They're going to sail in lighter winds than we will. So there are advantages to that. So why didn't we go with an aluminum boat? The main reason that we didn't go with aluminum is that we're building it ourselves. And there's a skill level involved with welding aluminum that we just don't have. And it's much easier as a do-it-yourself builder to build this out of composite than it would be for us to build it out of aluminum. So that's reason number one, but that's not the only reason. We actually prefer a composite boat over an aluminum boat. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't advantages to an aluminum boat. There are. For example, if you're going to sail up in the far northern, latitudes or southern and get to where there's icebergs, Well, having an aluminum hull that's going to hit those chunks of ice is going to be much stronger than impacting into a composite boat. But we don't intend to go there. I have no desire to sail amongst icebergs. It's cold, and I don't really want to be dodging those things. So we don't really need that for that kind of strength. And on the flip side, a composite boat is naturally insulated because it's a layer of foam between the layers of either basalt or fiberglass. So it's naturally insulated, and that's from both noise and from moisture condensation that you can get inside of a boat, and that causes a lot of mildew and stuff. Where a aluminum boat doesn't have that, and you have a lot more condensation issues, and you have a lot noisier. Think of putting your head inside of a metal barrel and having people bang on the outside of it. It's just noisier. That's not to say that there isn't noise on a composite, but it's just less. Now you can mitigate that on an aluminum cat by adding insulation inside the boat, but now you're adding more work and weight and all that stuff to try to insulate the boat when this composite boat is already naturally insulated. So we like the composite boat for the do-it-yourself aspect of building it, and for the noise and condensation issues that we won't have to deal with. And there's one last one. Any metal boat, steel or aluminum, is going to have galvanic corrosion issues. And you really have to be careful with those boats and do systems on board to try to make sure that you don't corrode right through the metal hulls due to galvanic corrosion, or you don't have those kinds of issues for the most part on a composite boat. You only have to worry about, say, where the metal from the prop shaft is and such. But most of the hull itself, you're not going to have any galvanic corrosion issues with that. So that's why we chose a composite boat.
Our next commenter is concerned about our anchors, being that the Mantis 2 works in the same kind of seabeds as our primary anchor, and have we considered another anchor, such as a Danforth, for the properties that that represents into soft sediment type of seabed. And yes, we have considered that the Danforth. We have similar anchors for kind of a backup situation. If something were to happen to our bow anchor, we could very much take our Mantis and have that be our primary anchor. And so we are looking at it in that way, and also considering the Danforth as a third option.
Yeah, down the line, if we feel like we need it, we'll add that third one. Now, the Mantis 2 performance anchor, I can say it's an excellent anchor, just like the Excel is. And it'll make a great stern anchor for us and a great backup.
Our next question is about being a experienced diver. Have you considered getting a hookah setup for your boat? And we have a compressor on board, so we really don't have a need for that hookah setup.
Right, it would just be more expensive and an extra weight on board when we already have scuba tanks and a dive compressor to fill them. So we'll just use those when we want to clean the hull and such.
Okay. Next question. When you fare over tabbing, are you getting good results by wiping the blade perpendicular like we see? I assume you are, but was wondering if running the blade parallel to the tabbing would make it easier to get a flatter surface.
We do run it parallel at times to get that out, but in the end, we like to scrape out. And the reason for that is that we're scraping from the fairing onto the flat green that we're never going to put fairing compound on. We get to just sand that and use super build on it. So by scraping it that direction, we get a nice smooth transition surface. It takes a lot less sanding to smooth that edge. If I go the other way, I end up with a ridge along there, and that takes a lot more sanding.
Okay. Our next comment is, LOL, crazy expensive boat project. We can obviously afford. Let's ask other people to fund it. Really, guys? I just don't know. I just don't get it. I know it's not cheap to rent a location, shipping container, pay for labor, then all the supplies and additional costs. But seriously, you are already so privileged. You wouldn't have started the project if you hadn't planned for these expenses, at least to an extent.
Okay, let's deal with this. The first thing is that I do want to agree that owning a beautiful yacht like this is a privilege, and we're very, very lucky to be able to do this. Now, having said that, let's talk about our particular situation, which is that we have saved for 20 years to get to the point where we could have this boat, and we're not getting any younger at this point. And the amount of money that we saved up could get us the basic kit and major things of the boat, but there wasn't enough there. You say, you obviously planned for having enough. Actually, no, because we can't wait longer and go another 10 years of saving money. We had to get started now so we don't get too old to do this sailing trip around the world. And so we had most of what we need, but not all of what we need. And we're now both retired and we're on a fixed income, so it's not like we're getting a lot more influx of cash at this point. So what we planned was to make a YouTube channel, and we would talk to various manufacturers, and because we have a YouTube channel, we would get some discounts. And those, we didn't know how many discounts or how much those discounts would be, but we factored in that we would have to get some in order to get this boat finished. And also any help we get from YouTube, from our patrons, from the people who watch. So thank you to this particular viewer, because he watched, and therefore, in his very small way, he added to the build of the boat. Now, back to the privilege thing. I also want to say that we've really sacrificed in order to get to here. This wasn't just handed to us. For example, we haven't been on a week or more long vacation in 30 years because we're saving. And you notice during the build of this boat, we've never missed an episode because we haven't taken a vacation in the 3 years so far of building the boat, because we don't want to spend that money. We're trying to use everything we have to get this boat done. So yeah, it's a privilege to be able to have this boat, but it's not like we aren't sacrificing to get here. And it's not like we just were handed everything. So the people who do help us here, it's very needed. And we do so appreciate any little bit of help that we get to get this done. And fortunately, I want to say, the manufacturers have really stepped up. And like Alexial has given us all the paint for this boat. That's a huge amount. And Raritan has given us our toilets, our water heaters, our macerator pumps. They have donated them to the project. Not every, but many of them have also just given us good discounts, 20, 30, 40, 50% discounts on stuff. And all of this adds up to a lot of savings. And because of that, we're still barely on budget right now, but we know there's extra costs coming still. And so these other, again, patrons and YouTube stuff will help with that as well, because there is no more money from us. We've used it. And so, again, we're very privileged to be able to do this, but it's not like we have a sacrifice to get here. So that's my answer to this user.
Next comment is, enjoy watching your construction. In your calculations, have you taken into account weather conditions such as rain, storms, and very hot temperatures? How much did you allow for these and other uncertainties?
We allowed nothing. Let me explain that. I just mentioned that we haven't taken a week or longer vacation while we've been building the boat. In fact, the only days that I have taken off from our regular work schedule are 3 days when I had COVID. That's it. And Brian took 3 days off when he had it at a different period. Yet we still worked on the boat, either one of the two of us. So as far as the weather goes, we just worked through it. And on the super hot days, you'll notice if you look in some of our videos, we went and worked in my garage on the daggerboard casings or the kick-up rudders or something, because it was just too hot here to work. That doesn't mean we didn't work. We just worked somewhere else. So, we may have lost a few days to massive rain, but not much, because we always, like I say, we work on other things in my garage or that kind of thing. So no, we don't plan to take days off. We work through the weather.
Yep. Last is, what does the Seagull Striker really do? Is it not just creating a nice spot for them to sit anyway?
We talked about this. There's a forebeam up between the holes at the bow. And there's a piece that we haven't built yet on there called a Seagull Striker, which is raised up above the forebeam. And in our case, it'll only be about maybe this tall in the center and slope down. Many boats, cats, have a much taller one. They use a metal cable, and it comes up to a much higher mount, maybe this high, and comes up with a metal cable and goes over. They both do the same thing, though. What they're doing is they're adding strength to the forebeam so that you don't have to make the forebeam as massive and heavy. And by adding that support like that for the upward pull of the mast, and of course sails pulling on it, it adds strength to it by having that structure called a Seagull Striker. Now, some catamarans have something below for strengthening as well, called a Dolphin Striker, and it's the same kind of thing. It's to help with the support. Our beam doesn't need that because it's a curved beam. It already has some of that strength for it, but it does need the Seagull Striker. So we'll be building that soon out of carbon fiber. So that's it for the questions for this week. I hope that answered the various people well enough. And thank you all for stopping by and watching our video. We do appreciate you so much, and every little bit helps our project.
Yes, thank you all for watching. We appreciate your time. Thank you to our patrons listed here. Couldn't do this project without you. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and click on the bell icon to be notified of our next video.
And we'll see you next week for 3 more carbon fiber chain plates, which we will show a lot more detail of how we built that. And we'll be getting on some other things as well next week. In fact, we're going to start on something new. After we get Monday and Tuesday over with, we're going to move on to working on one of the cabins. We haven't really worked on the cabins yet. So, well, we have for some cupboards, but we haven't worked on the bed portion of the cabin. So we're going to get started on that. See you next week for that.
Bye.